Welcome back, Thresholds and Transits, number 9. I am glad that you're here. My name is Megan. I am a student in astrology, and I'm finding out all sorts of really cool stuff. And as I find them out, I want to share them with you. I also want to grow a platform as quickly as possible and see as many charts as I possibly can. So I'm offering free / donation-based readings, chart readings. Now, I can do a decent chart reading. Transits are, a little iffy. Future questions are not comfortable. If I'm going to answer those, then it will be through my intuition. So you're welcome to ask future questions if we get time, but that is not my focus. My focus really is giving you the best chart reading that I can. And then if time, we can add in some transits. So if that's something that interests you, you can go to meganriley.eu. That is my website. There's all sorts of information there. If you are a woman or femme presenting, there's other resources there for you. You can take an assessment that I wrote about crossing over a threshold. You can read my story. You can look at the retreats. We're starting to get those ready. You can book a consultation, which is separate from a chart reading. You can do all sorts of things. If you are any gender, you are welcome to click on the Astrology tab. And on the Astrology tab, you can book a donation-based reading. Now, I am in Greece, and so I'm many hours ahead of many of you. So I have opened up what I think is a pretty, it's a pretty good spread of time for all sorts of different time zones. And if you can't find anything, let me know and we can probably figure something out. I think right now they are scheduled out about 2 weeks. And so that's still enough time. When it gets to be about a month out, I'll probably close that down for a while, just because the relevance, when we schedule something, it needs to still be relevant a month later. So I will close that down for a while. I do have just intuition-based readings. Those are available. Those are also on the site, meganriley.eu. You can schedule that there. And that's something that I have done for a long time. You might know me from another lifetime in Colorado, and that's where I was before. Okay, so let's get to Venus conjunct the North Node. And this happened on Tuesday, but there's also Saturn-Neptune tomorrow. And yes, I mean, I'm a little bit behind on the week. The readings have been so amazing. I'm a little bit behind. So Venus conjunct the North Node and Saturn-Neptune at 0 degrees, Ballerina Farm, Chopra, and why they need you exhausted. Venus, the North Node, and the week the fog cleared. Okay, so let's go to, she posted a photo of her engagement ring in August 2025. The caption was 2 words, I won. Her name is Sarah Stock. She is a conservative influencer and a Catholic convert of less than a year at the time. Her wedding was blessed by Pope Leo. She had positioned herself as proof that the system works, that if you follow the rules, if you stay soft, if you are obedient, beautiful, soft, domestic, and above all, available, you will be rewarded. You will win the game. And then within months, the story collapsed. She had an affair. The husband counter-filed in Florida, where she filed for divorce in Texas. The ex account went dark, a cryptic post about sinning, the whole coronation publicly undone. So I went to sit with that woman. I won. Because what she meant was, I acquired the role. I secured the man. I performed femininity correctly enough that I was chosen. This is a Neptune story. This is what the fog looks like. The belief that smallness is strategy. That if you dissolve your edges, your desires, your discernment into a role, you will be safe. That the correct performance of obedience is a form of winning. Saturn meets Neptune on the 20th at 0 degrees for the first time in approximately 6,000 years. I heard 9,000, I heard 6,000, we'll go with 6,000. And the fog is clearing. Today we are going to talk about why this is not a coincidence, about Venus conjunct the North Node on eclipse day and what it was actually asking women to value, about the tradwife fantasy and the spiritual guru industry as two branches of the same tree, about what the system actually punishes when it punishes women, and about why the most dangerous woman alive right now is not the loudest or the most powerful or the most famous. She is the most rested. She is the woman who has slept, who has eaten, who has made love, who has been held by the people who love her, who has, with full deliberateness, turned resources towards herself. That woman is ungovernable, and the system knows it. These are not separate stories. They are the same story told in different registers. And this is the week the astrology is telling us exactly what it is. So let me tell you what Neptune in late Pisces has been doing for the last 14 years. Neptune rules fog, illusion, dissolution, the longing for transcendence, and the way that longing can be exploited. Neptune is the archetype of the savior, the guru, the spiritual authority who offers something real and something in your bone deep self recognizes, and then uses that recognition to extract what they want. In Pisces, Neptune is at home, amplified. And what has it amplified over and over for 13 years is the desire to dissolve into something greater than yourself. For some women, that looked like spirituality, divine feminine workshops, embodiment retreats, teachers who promised to unlock your sacred feminine essence and then called it an honor to be publicly humiliated in front of a group. I was in one of those rooms, I know. Leadership knew what was going on and said nothing. Divine feminine in that space meant soft, passive, pliable, infinitely forgiving of the person doing the harm. It meant showing up even when the environment was actively abusive, because leaving would be the spiritual failure. My walking away was the most powerful thing I had done and the signal of my healing in discernment. They called it a failure, I called it a win. The master's tools, as Audre Lorde wrote in 1984, will never dismantle the master's house. And the divine feminine is sold in those spaces was built entirely with the master's tools. Submission dressed as surrender, people-pleasing rebranded as sacred service, the erasure of your own authority repackaged as higher teaching. For the other women, the fog took a different form. The tradwife aesthetic, the man who provides, the home that is curated and safe, a role with clear roles and a clear reward structure. In a world where median home prices have hit $412,000, wages have stagnated, and the lean-in culture promised freedom and delivered a different kind of exhaustion, tradwife fantasy offers something that genuinely felt like rest. But precision matters. The tradwife fantasy is not wrong because women choose domestic. Women have every right to organize their lives around home and family if that is what they genuinely want. I love to cook. I love to design a home. I love the routine and the practice of making a home. The problem is what is being concealed and who is being told what to want. Hannah Nealman of Ballerina Farm has 10 million Instagram followers and tells them consistently that the husband should be the breadwinner and the wife should tend the home. According to the National Women's Law Center's 2025 reporting, she personally earns over $850,000 a year from TikTok. Nara Smith, whose entire brand is the aesthetics of scratch-made domestic life, is worth $6 million. These are entrepreneurs performing traditional gender roles as a product, while the underlying message to their audience is make yourself invisible, make your labor free, and you will be loved. Always watch when the product is free. Whatever is free in this world is because we are the product. Social media, we are the product. Dating apps, we are the product. Porn, we are the product, right? Whatever is free, we are then being sold. This is Neptune at its most precise. The fog is beautifully lit. It has a very good filter. Cecile Simmons of the Institute for Strategic Dialogue has documented what many of us already sensed. The tradwife movement is not simply lifestyle content. She defines it as an international movement of women who advocate a return to traditional gender norms through submitting to their husbands and promoting domestic life. And research consistently finds that tradwife content serves as an on-ramp to broader far-right ideologies. The fog has a pipeline, and the pipeline leads exactly where you would expect. Back to coverture, the legal doctrine under which a married woman's legal existence was suspended and absorbed into her husband's. Sir William Blackstone described this in the 1760s as women being favorites under the law. A favorite is not a person with rights. A favorite is a dependent who is tolerated as long as she is pleasing. The fog might smell like freedom. That's how you know it's fog. Now let's talk about the men. Deepak Chopra has written 26 books about feminine energy, spiritual consciousness, love, and the divine. He has a chatbot trained on his wisdom. He has given keynotes to rooms full of women who wanted something real. He sold millions of people the idea that consciousness itself is divine, and the path to that divinity runs through his framework. In the Epstein files, released by the Department of Justice on January 30th, 2026, Deepak Chopra appears 3,278 times. In one email to Jeffrey Epstein, written years after Epstein's first conviction, so clearly a sex offender, Chopra wrote, "God is a construct, cute girls are real." In another exchange, Epstein asked him if he found a cute Israeli. Chopra wrote back about meeting his biological needs and enjoying the company of a younger, intellectually sharp and self-aware woman, whom he loved to inspire and stimulate. He planned dinners with Epstein and Woody Allen. He forwarded Epstein emails about paranormal research involving erotic and violent images and observing the pleasure and pain response of a clairvoyant. Those of you who were in the GATE program remember this one because the images that were in those brown envelopes are exactly this. When Epstein sent him a news article about a woman dropping her sexual assault case against Trump and Epstein, Chopra asked, "Did she also drop the civil case against you?" When Epstein said yes, Chopra replied, "Good." On February 4th, 2026, Chopra posted a statement on X with comments disabled. He called the emails poor judgment in tone and referenced himself akin to Rosa Parks. February 7th, an artist named Svedha Rubens posted publicly that when she was 16, she attended a meditation event hosted by Chopra in Europe. He gave her his phone number and asked her to meet him alone late at night. She refused and walked away. Chopra has faced allegations before. A former employee filed a sexual harassment lawsuit in 1996. The jury rejected it in 2000. Chopra then sued the accuser for blackmail, and the jury rejected that too. So I want to hold all of this at once. The 26 books about feminine energy, the chatbot trained on his wisdom, the 3,278 mentions in a sex trafficker's archive, the cute girls are real, the 16-year-old at the meditation retreat, and the comments disabled. This is what Neptune looks like from the inside. The spiritual authority and the exploitation are not in contradiction. They are the same mechanism. The spiritual authority is what creates access. The access is what enables the exploitation. And the fog, the beautiful, conscious, transcendent fog, is what keeps everyone in the room. I want to correct something before I go further. Because when I talk about the system punishing women, there is a version of this argument that slides into a familiar groove. The system punishes women who are deemed unacceptable. Women who are too loud, too old, too fat, too dark, too queer, too angry. Women who don't conform to the aesthetic requirements. The wrong hair, the wrong body, the wrong look, Utah curls, and a certain kind of softness are the entry fee, and women who don't pay that entry fee get punished. That is true, but that's not the complete argument. If we stop there, we miss what is actually happening, because the system also punishes women who conform perfectly and still, at some point, become replenished enough to stop needing its approval. The system does not punish women it deems unlovable. It punishes women it can no longer leverage. This is a different target that is more precise and more a frightening threat. So I'll say it again, because everything I'm about to say depends on it. The woman the system deems unlovable, i.e. the wrong body, the wrong look, the wrong compliance, that woman is punished by exclusion, by erasure, by being told that she does not exist in the register of desirable things. That punishment is real, and I am not minimizing it. I've experienced it. But it is also a containment strategy. If you never get in the room, you cannot disrupt what happens inside the room. The woman the system cannot leverage is a different problem entirely. She got in the room. She played the game long enough to accumulate something: money, influence, clarity, relationships, rest, the knowledge of what she actually values. And that's when she stopped being manageable. She started saying no. She started taking up space her own way. She started building things that do not require the system's approval to stand. That woman is not being excluded. That woman is being actively dismantled. And that's the more instructive story. So let's meet a different kind of dangerous woman. She's not the loudest. She's not the most publicly powerful. She's not the most famous or the most visible activist. The most dangerous woman in any room, according to the logic of the patriarchal system, is the one who is rested. The system asks that for a woman to be small, to dissolve, to perform exhaustion as evidence of their devotion. That system is not arbitrary, it is functional. A woman running on empty is manageable. She's too tired to organize. She's hungry. She's too depleted to fight back. She's too financially precarious to risk, too dependent on the approval of the people around her to jeopardize it. Depletion is not a side effect of the system. It is the intended outcome. A depleted woman is a compliant woman. And this is where the tradwife aesthetic is actually selling underneath all of it. It doesn't sell domestic bliss. It sells legibility. The Utah curls and the apron and the aestheticized depletion, 8 children, no outside help, physical toll you can see on a body that has been all in for the role. Hannah Nealman doesn't just perform domestic bliss. She performs the cost of domestic bliss on her body. She makes the depletion beautiful. She makes it aspirational. And then her audience, many of whom are genuinely exhausted, see that performance and feel recognized. The exhaustion is relatable. The aesthetics make it feel like a choice. Work harder, try harder, and you'll be like me. That is Neptune at its most sophisticated. The fog makes the depletion look like devotion. So what happens to the woman that refuses? The woman who has slept. She's made love. She's eaten well. She's been held and loved and nourished by people who are on her side. She built financial sovereignty. She said no to the depletion so many times that she no longer experiences it at the cost of being acceptable. That woman has access to the full range of her faculties. Her anger is online. Her intuition is on point. Her discernment is sharp. Her sense of her own authority has not been borrowed from anyone else's validation. She is, in the most literal sense, ungovernable. The system does not know what to do with her. It cannot leverage her survival against her because she has secured her survival independently. It cannot leverage her approval seeking because she has stopped seeking it. It cannot leverage her exhaustion because she has refused to stay exhausted. It cannot even use aesthetics against her because she does not care whether aesthetically she's legible to the system's requirements. The only move left is punishment, and that is what she gets. Let's go to Claudine Gay. In July 2023, Gay became the first Black president of Harvard University, the most prestigious academic institution in the United States. She had a PhD in government. She had been a professor at Harvard and Stanford. She led Harvard's largest division before being promoted. By any standard measure of academic credential and institutional standing, she was qualified. 6 months later, she was gone. The sequence was instructive. Conservative activists, not her academic peers, went through her dissertation and published papers looking for citation errors. They found some, along with long stretches of language that mirrored other published works without quotation marks. A Harvard review concluded the errors were not intentional or reckless and did not constitute misconduct. Gay corrected the citations, and the university stood by her. The campaign did not stop. Harvard ultimately accepted her resignation in January 2024 after 6 months in office, the shortest tenure in the university's nearly 400-year history. The activist who led the campaign, Christopher Rufo, posted "scalped" on X when she resigned. He then announced a plagiarism hunting fund and said that he would not stop until DEI ideology was abolished from every institution in America. He called Gay a trophy. Here's what the record actually shows. The plagiarism campaign against Gay was not initiated by scholars troubled by academic standards. It was initiated by political operatives who had publicly stated their goal was to remove her. Harvard's own review said the errors did not rise to misconduct. Multiple male university presidents with documented citation problems kept their jobs. Gay was the first Black woman to lead Harvard. She was gone in 6 months. The Reverend Al Sharpton said plainly, "This is an attack on every Black woman in this country who's put a crack in the glass ceiling." The system did not find a flaw and respond proportionately. The system went hunting for a flaw because it could not tolerate that she was in the role. Now, Nicola Sturgeon. Sturgeon led Scotland for 8 years, the longest serving First Minister and the first woman ever to hold the post. She guided the country through Brexit, through a pandemic, through 3 UK-wide elections and 2 Scottish elections. She was, by the assessment of even her opponents, an exceptional political communicator and a formidable force. She resigned in February 2023, a month after Ardern. In her resignation, she used a word that I want you to hold. She did not say challenging. She did not say demanding. She described modern political life as having a brutality to it that had intensified. A Scottish women's rights researcher writing in The Scotsman after her resignation put language to what Sturgeon could only gesture at. The torrent of abuse and harassment directed at women politicians serves to intimidate and silence them. She called it technology-facilitated misogyny and said its intention, its design, was to make women leave. Sturgeon left before they finished the job. Like Ardern, a month before her, she chose her own terms over their timeline. Both women in the same month, in different countries, on different continents, said the same thing: "I will not let you hollow me out." The press called it burnout. It was not burnout, it was a boundary. And now Christine Lagarde. On February 18th, 2026, the Financial Times reported that Lagarde is expected to leave the European Central Bank before her term ends in October 2027. She is the first woman ever to lead the European Central Bank, and she was the first woman ever to lead the International Monetary Fund before that. The reported reason for her early exit: to allow Macron to influence the selection of her successor before the 2027 French presidential election, amid fears the far right could win and block a centrist appointment. Read that again. The first woman to lead the ECB, leaving early, not because she failed, because the structure around her requires her departure to manage political risk, and that she did not create and cannot control. She's asked to vacate a role that she holds confidently so the men around her can arrange the future in her absence. It's not burnout, it's not scandal. It's a system using a woman's position as political resource and then discarding the woman when the resource has been extracted. These three women span academic, political, and financial power. Their circumstances are different. The underlying logic is identical. The moment a woman holds a position of genuine institutional authority, the system begins searching for the mechanism to remove her. The search is not proportionate. It is not applied equally. It is applied specifically, relentlessly to the women who have gotten far enough in that the only way to stop them is to dismantle them. Now, Jacinda Ardern. Ardern served as the Prime Minister of New Zealand beginning in 2017. She led her country through a mass shooting, volcanic eruption, and a pandemic. She became the second elected world leader in history to give birth in office, and she brought her infant daughter to the United Nations General Assembly. She was, by any measure, exceptional at her job. She resigned in January 2023 at age 42. Her statement was quiet and precise. She said she no longer had enough in the tank. Her deputy, Grant Robertson, said after her resignation that the hatred directed at her had been unprecedented in New Zealand's history. Not intense, unprecedented. Male leaders survive jobs that hard. They survive because the system does not extract double from them, do the work, and also perform warmth. Manage your competence and also manage your optics. Absorb the anger of the people you govern, and also never let it show that you are absorbing it. Ardern had been doing that math for 6 years, and when she stopped, she was not incapable of governing. She was protecting herself from the system. The moment she began rationing her energy on her own terms, the system read it as withdrawal of consent. She did not burn out because the job was hard. She refused to let them finish the process of depleting her. That's a profound act of self-sovereignty. In January 2025, the Trump administration issued executive orders targeting all federal employees associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion work. What followed was a purge. The ACLU of Washington, D.C., in a lawsuit filed December 2025, documented the gender composition of who got fired. At the Department of Homeland Security alone, 37 men who were fired compared to 97 women. Attorney Kelly Dermody, revealing the broader pattern for ProPublica, found that 90% of the workers targeted by the anti-DEI orders were women or non-binary people. The lawsuit, Fell versus Trump, alleges that the administration engaged in targeted actions to punish perceived political enemies and eliminate women, people of color from the federal workforce. Mahri Steinrich was fired from her position at the Office of Personnel Management, not for DEI work that she was currently doing, for DEI work that she had done in a previous role. The system reached back to punish her not for a present act, but for the record of her values. Scott Mickelman, legal director of the ACLU, said plainly, the decision to go after people for DEI work that they are no longer doing shows the administration's true motive, to punish employees who they think hold values that clash with the president's extremist agenda. Cheryl Pryratt was the primary breadwinner for her family. After her firing, her family faced losing their home. These are women who had, through their work, asserted that their presence and the presence of people like them mattered, that it was enough, and the punishment came from that assertion. Let's go back to Medusa. We've talked a lot about Medusa lately. The original myth, before Perseus, before the hero story, Medusa was a woman at the height of her power. She was a priestess of Athena. And a priestess at that time were the only women that had rights. They could own land, they could argue in court. She was a woman of such formidable presence, such complete sovereignty, that the patriarchal mythological system had to invent a monster story to justify the violence required to diminish her. She had to become hideous for the killing to be acceptable. The monstrous woman is almost always historically the replenished one. The witch who lives alone, who feeds herself, who sleeps without asking for permission and answers to no one. The system needed her to be terrifying because a self-sufficient woman is structurally incapable with a system that runs on female depletion. If you want to see what the punishment for female sovereignty looks like without the softening that liberal democracies apply to it, let's look at Iran. In September 2022, 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini was detained by Iran's mortality police for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. She died in their custody. The cause of death was disputed by the Iranian government and accepted by everyone else. Her death sparked the Woman Life Freedom movement. Women across Iran cut their hair in public, removed their hijabs, and took to the streets. The Iranian's government response was documented by the United Nations fact-finding mission in 2025. Systematic persecution of women, girls, surveillance, torture, mock executions, families of protesters intimidated. In 2025 alone, Iran carried out approximately 1,500 executions, a 50% increase over the previous year, according to the United Nations. The crime at the root of it all was the same. The women who refused to make their bodies legible to the state's requirements, women who insisted on the sovereignty of their own appearance and their own movement, in their own presence in public space. Women who refused to be depleted into compliance. This is the extreme end of the scale, but the scale is continuous from the federal worker who lost her livelihood for her value system, to the prime minister who resigns rather than to be hollowed out, to the woman in Tehran who is killed for how she wears her hair. The logic is identical. The system requires legibility. Legibility requires depletion. The replenished woman, the woman who has resourced herself enough to act on her own authority, breaks the legibility, and broken legibility is punished. Audre Lorde wrote in 1988, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." She knew. She knew because she was living with cancer, a Black lesbian poet in Reagan's America, writing that sentence with full knowledge of what it would mean to the systems around her. She was not writing a wellness affirmation. She was writing a declaration of war. The war was fought by feeding herself, by resting herself, by being sexual, by refusing to apologize for taking up space, refusing to perform that depletion that would make her acceptable. Victoria Brescoli at Yale published a research in 2011 that in the Administrative Science Quarterly, finding that men who expressed their anger in professional settings were assigned higher status and higher wages. Women who expressed that same anger were assigned lower status and lower wages and were perceived as less competent. So a woman living at full capacity, operating from a rested, resourced, sovereign place, expressing the full range of her responses, including anger, is penalized by the system specifically for the fullness. The system has calibrated its expectations to a woman running at 60%. When she shows up at 100, the surplus looks to that system like aggression. She's not aggressive, she's whole. And a whole woman is a threat. This is the Venus North Node conjunction's core question, not how do I make myself more lovable. Venus conjunct the North Node is not asking you to be loved by the structure. It's asking, have you loved yourself enough that the opinion of you has stopped being the governing variable? The well-loved woman is not the woman the system approves of. She is the woman who has loved herself into full capacity, who has slept, who has eaten, who has said no enough times that yes coming from her is genuine desire and not exhaustion, who has surrounded herself with people who are genuinely for her, who has built enough financial sovereignty that she does not need anyone's approval to survive. That woman is the rebel. She is a risk. That woman is the one who the system needs to punish before she has too many sisters. Your full self. not the curated version, not the version that has done the performance correctly, not the version that has managed yourself into legibility. The full self, rested, fed, loved, resources, intact. This is the divine feminine with her teeth. So the eclipse was on Tuesday, Aquarius solar eclipse, and Venus conjunct the North Node exact at 8 degrees. So this is what this means. The North Node is the direction of growth. It is where the collective is being asked to evolve. It is, in Pisces, it is asking for depth, for intuition, for genuine spiritual development, not the performance of spiritual development, for the kind of discernment that lives below the rational mind, in the body, the felt sense, for the faith of your own perception. Venus has values and desire and worth. So what do you value? What do you actually want? What do you assign worth to? When those two meet, they create a moment of alignment between what you value and the direction your soul is pointed. Venus conjunct the North Node is asking, are you building a life that reflects what you actually value, or the one that reflects what you were told to value? In Pisces, the shadow is exactly what we've been talking about. Venus in Pisces is exalted, which means that she is at full strength. But her shadow is the capacity for beautiful self-deception. The fog is always most seductive when you are in a state of longing. Venus in Pisces longs. And Neptune, ruling Pisces, has been providing the fog for 14 years. That eclipse burned it off. The eclipse was the beginning. And what Venus conjunct the North Node is saying at that beginning is now you can see. Look at what you built. Look at what you chose. And look at whose definition of your worth you've been carrying. And do you want to continue that? For women who've been in the tradwife spaces, the question is about money, autonomy, food. Whose story about your value are you believing? The tradwife fantasy asks you to locate your worth in the role, your domesticity, your husband's provision, your children's happiness. What happens to that worth when the husband is counterfiling in Florida and the ex account goes dark? For women who've been in the spiritual spaces, the question is about whose authority you treated as more reliable than your own. The guru industry asks that you locate your spiritual development in the teacher's assessment of your progress. What happens when that teacher has 3,278 mentions in the Epstein archive? Venus conjuncts the North Node is not a gentle transit, it's a clarifying one. It asks, who are you when the fog clears? And it is saying that person, the one you find when you stop performing for external approval, that is the one your North Node wants. The erotic in Audre Lorde's framing is not about sexuality, although it includes sexuality. It's the vitality that flows when you are fully yourself. She wrote about it in Uses of the Erotic in 1978. The erotic is information. It is the deep knowledge of what is genuinely satisfying versus what is merely expected of you. Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces is calling you back to the erotic in that sense, back to the felt sense of genuine satisfaction, back to the knowledge that lives in the body, below the performance. That is directional. That's where the North Node is going. That is the evolutionary imperative of this eclipse season. The felt sense of genuine satisfaction, back to the knowledge that lives in the body. Also, Saturn-Neptune at 0 degrees. 0 degrees is not an accident. Saturn is structure, consequence, ability, time. It is the principle that what cannot be sustained will not be sustained. Neptune is vision, illusion, transcendence, fog. It is the principle that consciousness reaches beyond material reality. When they meet at 0 degrees, they're not simply making an aspect. They are resetting the terms. Like a safe dial, they're turning the wheel at the most fundamental level of what is real and what is illusion. This conjunction last occurred at the precise degree approximately 6,000 years ago. We have no historical record of that. We only know what this one looks like. The Epstein files are public. Deepak Chopra's comets are disabled. The former Prince Andrew was just arrested. Tradwife influencers are filing for divorce in competing jurisdiction. The Iranian government is executing women who refuse to be compliant. The fog and the accountability are meeting at the beginning of everything. For the past 13 years, 14 years, Neptune has been in Pisces, dissolving structures. Some of what dissolved deserved to dissolve. Some of the fog was genuinely beautiful, genuinely useful, genuinely necessary for a world that has lost touch with mystery. But Neptune without Saturn is just fog, beauty without accountability, vision without consequence. And the structures being dissolved include women's ability to trust their own perception, which was not on the list of things that needed to go. Saturn's arrival does not destroy what Neptune built. It asks, what of this survives contact with reality? The tradwife fantasy does not survive this question. It's built on economics that require a median single income household, earning that has not been achievable for most American families since the 1970s. It is built on coverture, the legal doctrine that treated women as non-persons absorbed into their husband's legal identity. It's built on a nostalgia for a version of the 1950s that was comfortable for a very narrow demographic, and only because everyone else's discomfort was legally invisible. The guru industry does not survive this question. Not when the files are public, not when the women are speaking, not when the former Prince Andrew is being arrested, not when the sky is demanding structural accountability at the foundational degree. And the performance of depletion, the system's requirement that women demonstrate exhaustion as proof of their devotion, that does not survive this either. Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries is the bill coming due for 6,000 years of telling women that their full selves are too much. It's a huge reckoning. It's a ground shifting. This is the deepest meaning of Saturn-Neptune for women specifically. What is ending is not your power. What is ending is the requirement that you pretend you don't already have it. On February 22nd, Venus trines Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of abundance, of genuine good fortune. Cancer is home, body, nourishment, the maternal in the most elemental sense, the place of belonging, the safety that does not require smallness to access. Jupiter, exalted in Cancer, is the abundance that is felt in the body, not the I-1 of those engagement photos, which was about acquiring a role, but the abundance that comes from knowing what genuinely nourishes you and finding it available. Venus in Pisces, trine, that means your values, your desire, your sense of your own worth are in flow, natural alignment with embodied abundance. That's no tension. That's no performance. The values that you clarified through the eclipse, through the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and through all the fog clearing, those values now have a direct line to the resources they require. This is a promise of ease. It's a description of alignment. When your life is organized around what you genuinely value, rather than what you were told to value, the resources follow that organization. And the universe rewards the victorious, and depletion is metabolically expensive. These women are hungry. A woman who stopped paying the depletion tax has enormous energy available for everything else. The Venus-Jupiter trine on the 22nd asks, what do you want to nourish? What are you building with the energy that used to go forward performing smallness? Audre Lorde, when I dare to be powerful, I use my strength and the voice of my vision, and then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. This is Venus trines Cancer. Venus trine Jupiter in Cancer. This is not, it's the decision to move toward what you value, even in the presence of fear, because what you value has become clearer than your fear. That requires a certain level of self-nourishment to maintain. That requires having fed the thing that does the valuing, the body, the relational life, the financial ground. It's the definition of sovereignty. The tradwife movement is not going to end because feminists argued it against it. It is going to end because it cannot survive the economic and structural reality that Saturn is now enforces. Those houses are too expensive. The single income is insufficient. The legal protection is gone. The women filing for divorce in 2 states simultaneously, and the exit count is dark, and the Pope's blessing didn't even hold. The guru industry is not going to end because women got louder. It's not because they spoke up. It was already ending. The files are public. The women are speaking. The comments are disabled. People are acting. The fog can't hold when Saturn is asking for receipts at 0 degrees of Aries. And the system's requirement that women perform their depletion is ending too, not because the system has developed compassion, but because the women who have stopped performing it are so visibly more capable than the system expected that the performance is being exposed as the cost of compliance, not the cost of living. So let's be super clear. It's not asking you to be a different kind of person. It's not asking you to join anything, fight anything, or sacrifice anything. It's asking you to stop paying the depletion tax. Sleep when you need to sleep. Make love when you want to make love. Eat when you need food. Say no when you mean no. Spend your energy on what you actually value. Build financial ground under your feet. Surround yourself with people who want you at your full capacity, not the people who require you to be small and comfortable. Stop explaining your wholeness to people who are invested in you being fragmented. This is the revolutionary act. This is what Venus conjunct North Node on Eclipse Day was pointing towards. This is what Venus, Jupiter, and Cancer is rewarding us on the 22nd. This is what Saturn-Neptune at 0 degrees Aries is making visible. The full scale of what has been extracted from women through the performance of acceptable smallness and what becomes possible when the extraction stops. The women being executed in Iran for wearing their hair their own way or for protesting. Jacinda Ardern, who walked away before the system could finish depleting her, already knows this. The federal workers who are being punished for the work they no longer are even doing, punished for what the administration perceives as their values, they know what it costs. They're paying for it. Some of it are paying with their homes. Some of it are paying with their lives. The least we can do, those of us who with the margin to make this choice, is to actually make the choice. Audre Lorde wrote, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare." She didn't write that from a place of comfort. She wrote it while living with cancer in a country that was actively hostile to her existence on 3 counts. She wrote it as a doctrine and as an instruction for us. This is the instruction. The divine feminine with her teeth intact isn't a performance, it's not an aesthetic, it's not a brand, it's the woman who has fed herself enough to be dangerous, rested herself enough to be clear, loved herself enough to stop auditing her own authority, and built enough sovereign ground beneath her feet that the system cannot leverage her survival against her. This is Venus conjunct the North Node. This is Saturn, Neptune at 0 degrees in Aries. It's what they're pointing at and making space for. And then Venus, Jupiter, and Cancer is calling home. So 0 degrees of Aries sounds like when a woman is standing at the beginning with her eyes open.